Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Katy Loudon, who's the SNP candidate for the by-election in Rutherglen and Hamilton West, says that locals don't care that the police are investigating the SNP over party finances. I think either she's being spectacularly naive, extraordinarily delusional, or she thinks that the people of Rutherglen and Hamilton West are stupid. I don't think that the people of that particular place are that particularly stupid. I think that she is either delusional or naive, and I'm going to go with delusional. If she thinks that people don't look at what's happening and vote accordingly, then she is in for a very big shock. Now, of course, there will be the rabid, foaming at the mouth, rolling eyes SNP supporters who will still vote for the party, even though they're voting for a bunch of crooks who've embezzled millions, perhaps, from the party and from the public. They could be voting for a party that backs the mutilation of children. They'll be voting for a party that wants to let people who do terrible things to women and children off scot-free, as we've covered many times. And they'll still vote for them. So yes, there are some stupid people there. But I think the vast proportion of people in Rutherglen and Hamilton West will take one look at the SNP and go, no thanks, not today, and vote elsewhere, probably Labour. But we shall see. We'll look at this piece to see what Katy Loudon actually thinks and why she's so very, very wrong. Here goes. So, SNP Rutherglen candidate says locals don't care about Nat Police Probe as party's launch campaign. Well, I think they may well do. I think you're still going to get, you're going to get your rolling-eyed, foaming at the mouth, rabidly SNP voter. But there are not many of them. Most people aren't that dim. They're not going to vote for the party being investigated, for potentially embezzling millions from the people. They're not going to be voting for a party that wants to basically decriminalise some of the worst crimes imaginable. They're not going to vote for the party that's going to raise their taxes beyond unbelievable levels. People are looking at all the different things the SNP are doing. They're looking around at the failing NHS. They can't get a doctor. Certainly can't get a dentist. Things need to change, and people will vote accordingly. And I think they're going to vote Labour. Let's be honest. So the other parties have put people up, but it's only really Labour that's got a chance. Anyway, Katy Loudon, who's been chosen to fight for COVID, for the COVID-shamed Margaret Ferrier's seat in Rutherglen and Hamilton West, claims she'd not heard much about Operation Branchform when campaigning in the region. Really? Is that what she says? Dearie me. This poor woman is going to suffer out badly when the election result is read out. The SNP's candidate for Margaret Ferrier's old seat in Rutherglen has claimed that no one locally cares about the ongoing police probe into her party. Katy Loudon made the claims as Nationalists launched their election campaign in South Lanarkshire town. Well, just because they're not talking about it doesn't mean they're not aware of it. It was announced on Tuesday that the COVID-shamed former SNP MP had lost her place at the House of Commons after the recall petition was signed by almost 15% of the electorate, with 11,996 people in Rutherglen and Hamilton West calling for her to be booted out. And out she indeed was booted. She had sat as an independent after being booted out of her party in 2020, but she had also always voted with the SNP. Both the SNP and Scottish Labour will go head-to-head in the constituency, with both launching their election campaigns on Wednesday, although Michael Shanks, as I said, had been around the constituency a lot earlier. He was out actually physically knocking on doors. This is only the start of the official campaign, once the by-election was certain, but he'd actually been out and introducing himself a lot earlier. It is the first major test of Humza Yousaf's reign as First Minister, with a potential crushing defeat damaging the SNP's already fragile morale. He's had two other tests at county council level, and he's lost both of them. This election will come on the 5th of October, it's looking like. Could be the 12th, but probably the 5th of October. And 10 days later, they start the party conference. So they'll be going into a party conference having known that they've just been defeated in a by-election. So it's not good for their morale at all, is it? Anyway, he was in Rutherglen with his candidate on Wednesday as they both fielded questions about the upcoming battle. The probe into the party's finances, known as Operation Branchform, was mentioned but shrugged off by Miss Loudon, who suggested that the locals don't really care about it. I think you may be mistaken. This is despite the arrests of Nicola Sturgeon, Murrell and Colin Beattie, sending shockwaves around the world and the SNP vote plummeting over the last few months. Indeed, every poll is showing not only that they've gone down, but it's a trend. Each time they do the poll, they're going further down. It is a downward trajectory, and it is not good for them, which is excellent, isn't it? It's truly laughable. Miss Loudon, who is a councillor for Cambuslang East, was asked by journalists if she was concerned about Operation Branchform hanging over her campaign. She said it's not an ideal situation, of course, and I don't think there's any point in saying otherwise. But she said, I'd have to say genuinely, and we've been chatting indoors and speaking to people, that I do not think that my time in any way as a role as a councillor. She said it's not what people are talking about just now. People are deeply concerned about the cost of living crisis. And yet, strangely, the SNP are doing nothing about that. And they're still pushing the independence thing at all costs. They're not addressing what people are concerned about. And she's now admitting people are concerned about that. So why isn't her party doing something about it instead of constantly banging on about independence? She said, I see that in my case workload that's coming in, as well as going about speaking to people, that's what people are concerned about. This is what is going to be a major issue in our drive and campaign, looking at how we can support local people. Well, how about not constantly going on about independence and doing your day job? That would make a change, wouldn't it? There were also questions about Miss Ferrier during the summit, as she was a loyal SNP activist for many years, before winning the seat in the constituency twice for the Nationalists. Mr Youssef confirmed she was no longer a member of the party and that he had not spoken to her since being elected First Minister. Miss Loudon, who had been pictured campaigning with the shamed former MP, also claimed that she had not spoken to her former friend since 2020. Not much of a friend if you've dropped her like that, is it? You claim friendship, that's fine, but she might have disappointed you in terms of political activism. You shouldn't drop people just for that, which goes to show you're a very shallow person, I think. When the allegations, this is about after the allegations first came out, some within the nationalist movement believe that she'd been treated harshly by a party she dedicated her life to. But Mr Youssef rejected these claims. He said, I just don't agree with that. And as I've said before, many of us before liked Margaret. We campaigned alongside her. She worked for the party and worked hard. But Margaret has been reckless in her actions, and that is not forgivable. No, strange how that's not forgivable, and yet so many weird other things in the SNP completely are forgivable. Some awful things are forgivable, like Patrick Grady. Apparently, sexually touching people inappropriately is forgivable. Having a disease and travelling isn't. They've got weird sense of what is forgivable or not, haven't they? Anyway, I shall round off and I shall come up. Well, there we go. I think she is delusional. She thinks that it won't have an effect. Sure, there'll be a lot of things on people's minds. They'll be looking at other things, the state of the NHS and education, that sort of thing. But undoubtedly, there'll be some people rejecting the SNP simply because of Operation Branchform, because they're looking at a party with very shady financial history, with possible embezzlement, and they'll be thinking, maybe not. It will have an effect. It will undoubtedly have an effect. And I think Labour will get in, and it will be a large majority. And that will just go to humiliate both the party, and more particularly, it'll humiliate Humza Yousaf himself personally. And that can be no bad thing, as he's taken down a peg or two and shown that the SNP are not infallible. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see and hear on the channel, do please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, people talk even if they don't tell you what they're talking about. Bye.